Salutations, mortals and children of the night. I am the Vampire Otaku, and this is my new series where I persuade you to read something that might not be on your radar or something that you might be on the fence about. Consider this a gentle push. The series that we're going to talk about today, and the series that I want you to read, is entitled Cirque du Freak. Cirque du Freak is a 12-volume manga collection, or 6 omnibuses. They're not terribly expensive, and they are readily available. They're not too hard to find. You can find them on Amazon, Right Stuff, eBay, wherever you decide to purchase your books. You can find them at Barnes & Noble as well. I will show you each cover, the spines, and a little bit of the art of my 6 collected omnibuses. Volume 1. They are quite thick, but not too heavy. The quality is okay. It's yen press. Yen press, the quality is usually pretty decent. The art is very cartoony, but still detailed nonetheless. It's Volume 1. Volume 2. I also love all the muted colors that they've chosen for each particular volume. They're very glossy, very smooth. And I love that they put a spider on each spine. Very cool detail. I think towards the latter parts of this collection, the art actually improves a little bit, which is always a fun time. And they're all very consistent as far as quality. They're all the same height, same quality paper. None of them are matte. They're all gloss, so I love the consistency. Volume 4, probably one of the brightest of the muted colors of the volumes. The mangaka does a really good job with hair. Very clean lines. Volume 6, my apologies, 5. Kind of a rusted color. They all have spiders on the back as well, which is really cool. And now, Volume 6. Final volume. Let's take a look at some art. So, we'll grab my notes and we can discuss why I believe you should go out and actually purchase this manga, or at least read it, at least give it a chance. I think it's criminally underrated, and as a connoisseur of vampire literature, it's a very beautiful story, very well written, and it's easy to find. And it's easy to digest, like the story isn't convoluted. So let me grab my notes and let's explain why you should read Cirque du Freak. The story of Cirque du Freak, originally written by Darren Shan, who is Irish, but born in London in 1972. The mangaka who illustrates Cirque du Freak is Takahito Arai, born in Kanagawa, Japan in 1982. The story follows the main character, Darren Shan, like the author. Without spoilers, I'll say that he and his best friend, Steve Leonard, are written as rivals of sorts. The story starts when a mysterious circus comes to town known as Cirque du Freak. Darren and Steve try to get tickets, but this circus was for adults. They snuck in and learned a few new things. They learned that vampires exist, and they also learned that the circus was more than what met the eye. Darren also found the spiders. Darren loves spiders. The spider's name was Madame Octa. Darren then steals the spider for himself as he learns that he can train the spider with the sound of a flute, like a snake charmer. After that, his world has changed forever. Feeling giddy and excited about being able to make Madame Octa, the spider, do tricks and even move at his will, he shows his best friend. As he's showing off and doing tricks and using the flute, suddenly Madame Octa disobeys, bites his best friend Steve. The spider is highly toxic, and only its owner has the antidote. Darren takes Steve to the hospital, and he goes to find out the owner of the spider. He learns of a character named Larden Crepsley. He is a vampire, and he has the antidote. Crepsley says he will only give Darren the antidote if he agrees to become his vampire assistant, becoming a half vampire. Darren, for his best friend, decides to take the offer. He then gets the antidote to his best friend, and almost immediately his best friend is revived. Steve is jealous because his best friend, Darren, becomes a vampire, and he wants to figure out why he can't be a vampire. Larden tells Steve that he is evil, his blood is tainted, and he could never be a vampire. This upsets Steve, and he goes on a separate path. Meanwhile, our main character, Darren, has to slowly give up his mortal life as more and more he becomes a vampire. We fast forward in the story, and there is a conflict between vampires and vampanese. The difference between these two species are their diets and their morals. Vampires do not kill, and they only drink the blood of their sleeping victims, not to be seen or detected. Meanwhile, vampanese are very sloppy. They kill at will, and they don't care who sees them when they attack. Their appearances are different as well, vampires being closer to humans, with their skin being just a little more pale, and being able to almost blend in with humans. Meanwhile, vampanese have purple skin and red eyes, and their character is very hostile, very angry. Meanwhile, vampires are very prideful and very composed. They're almost warrior-like. There's also a character named Desmond Tiny, or Mr. Destiny, which is a clever way to say his name. He is a very clever character who can predict and affect the future. He plays a major role in all the chaos that happens to all of our heroes in the story and the villains. He plays neither side and is only here for the chaos and the entertainment. I want you all to read this manga because it's highly underrated. It's an amazing vampire story, and it's just a unique take on vampires in general. With 6 omnibuses, the art is fun and unique. The story can be read and enjoyed by just about any age, which is a difficult feat. Usually when you have a story that can be enjoyed by all ages, either adults are going to feel bored by its simplistic concepts, or it might be just a little bit too mature for children, even though it could be, read by children. It might go over their heads. But in this story, it's just complex and action oriented enough to keep an adult attention. And the art is just, fun enough to be enjoyed by children. But the story is easy enough to understand, but it's not too simplistic for adults to have fun with. All the characters are well fleshed out, and with the unique concepts, each character has a want and a conflict. The pacing of the story is excellent. The story also has great lessons of honor, loyalty, and courage. Please give this story a chance and let me know in the comments whenever you decide to check it out, how you feel about it, how the story makes you feel, and if you would like to keep collecting it, if you decide to read some of it, and if you read all of it, tell me what your favorite parts are, who your favorite character is. My favorite character is Larden Crepsley. He is such a dynamic, such a complex, and such a well drawn out and wrote out character. He is so fun to read about, learning about his past, learning about what made him the way that he is presently in the story, his relationship with Darren. It started off rocky, and it becomes almost like a father-son connection, just very beautiful. And Steve and Darren's relationship, how it becomes the way that it becomes later on in the story, is so beautiful and so heart-wrenching. Each character, even Madame Octa, the spider, has, some detail. I really enjoyed just the way that Darren ages differently as a half vampire. Like, he still ages, but he ages half the speed of a mortal human. I enjoyed Steve's a very complex character, and he's very fun to read about. And after a while, you don't hear about him, and he just comes back out of nowhere. And just the way that Darren is surprised by, him coming back into the story, us as readers also get surprised. So they did such a great job with the pacing, and you really feel like all the other characters are getting older, they're moving through life, while Darren is slowly moseying along and trying to figure out what his purpose is, what he's doing, and just he's fighting with destiny too, literally and figuratively, because Mr. Desmond Tiny, Destiny. There's a lot of interesting places in this manga as well, like Vampire Mountain, the city that Darren grows up in, the school life, just all very interesting. I will say that the conflict between the vampires and Vampanese is some top-notch action, and I really enjoyed the panels when they're fighting, when they're basically playing chess, strategically trying to figure out who's going to strike first, who's going to do what, and who they need to take out, who they need to, destroy. Another amazing part of this manga is the fact that it's written after some of the volumes that the mangaka and the author, Darren Shan, get to meet up in America, and they get to talk about, how they enjoy the story and how the novel and the manga are, comparable, and how they both, or how, more so how the mangaka got inspired by the author, And around the time when they met, the movie The Vampire Assistant came out, which is a live action version of the novel. So having all three of those avenues as a way to consume the story is also really beneficial and intriguing for you, the viewer, and the reader. You get to experience so many different ways to enjoy the story, which is kind of rare. You know, some stories they only have a novel, or they have a novel and a live action, but you get a manga, a movie, and a novel, which is incredible. You get three amazing ways to consume the story. I love the romances in this story. Like, the story isn't romance based by any means, but you get to see how Darren cares about certain characters and how that can be a hindrance and a help. Yeah, just definitely read this story. It's really good. I highly recommend it. And I don't think that anyone would be disappointed by reading this. If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. This is the first episode of the series You Should Read. I enjoy this format. I enjoy showing you series that I think are underrated or just underappreciated. Series that I love, and I want you to see it the way that I see it if possible, or at least check it out, show it some love. I recommended this series, Cirque Freak, to another YouTuber named Loof Meat. He has a really awesome channel, really great manga content, and you should subscribe to him and subscribe to me. Working on 500 subscribers at the moment, trying to have more art content and better manga content, and I'm excited to share all the books that I've been reading and the books that I'm excited to check out, and just the books that hold a special place in my heart. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.